I have a couple of questions for you, Chief. Now, you know, I do thank you. I do thank your staff for their contribution to the community. First question would be, with the new internal affairs, where, if a person wanted to fill out a complaint, who would they need to contact and where would they go to fill out that complaint?
They would contact the Marshall Police Department. They could either start, well, the complaint needs to be filed in person and in writing. So the first thing they would do is they would come to the Marshall Police Department, ask to speak to Lieutenant Stone or Detective McIntosh, one of the two internal affairs investigators, and then those officers will actually walk the person through the process. I mean, we sit down with the person and we walk them through the process step by step. We have streamlined the process. Like I said, the process before, I mean, pretty much required a PhD to get it done. However, now we've completely simplified it to where if you really do want to file a complaint, and you just go down there, you file the report, our officers will investigate it. We'll use every tool. We're as transparent as we can be. You, sir, have seen how our internal affairs section works. So that's the way the process works.
Okay, I have one thing, and it's not so glorious as everybody else's, and I'm so sorry to have to put this out. But as a representative of District 2, okay, and I wrote something down so I could get it over with and we could breeze right through it, okay? Okay, I'm speaking on behalf of District 2 and myself. I want to address the over-policing that has been happening within District 2 and 5, okay, specifically on the corner of University and Sanford, which is where I live, okay? For the last 2 months, police have occupied the old Bouillard service station. In the past 2 weeks, 2 to 4 police officers have been using this service station at one time, okay, abusing their discretion with over hours of pulling citizens over for background checks or citations. I was told that University and Sanford is a high crime area, which in turn, the area is surrounded by senior citizens. I was then enlightened to the fact that last year in this area, the crime rate had dropped. In the last year, myself and Dream Team Detail occupied that corner. So it would be safe for me to say that the community has come together to help lower the crime rates, and it's not all the police reward, okay? I'm also extremely disappointed in all members that are involved in this project. I feel this is a poor way to spend taxpayers' money. I also want to address the issues of chain of command with your police department. It seems like your officers are completely unaware of how the chain of command is structured, and I recommend you all hold training on that. I also recommend that you all hold training on how to speak with the public, to where when a person is pulled over, it's not confrontational, okay? I've experienced myself that, again, your staff and you have been awesome with coming out, talking to the public and dealing with the public. Now, some of your officers, obviously, they may just be new and haven't had the proper training. They have no way to work or deal with the public. I even had a gentleman walked up to shake the officer's hand, and the officer basically shoved his hands up underneath his vest, and I was just appalled by that. Is there some way we could get the officers to become more involved, especially with District 2, with, you know, without the red and blue lights spinning, to where they actually will come out and start communicating with the community? That way, if we do have crime in the area, that those that's willing to work with your police department are, you know, have the opportunity to work with your police department?
Yes, sir. The question about the traffic stops, we have a breakdown of the most areas where we conduct our traffic stops, and Stanford and University is actually
page 2.
Yes, sir.
Down the bottom of our statistic. Now, you don't have this report. However, between January 1st and April 29th of 2016, on Sanford and University, we've only conducted 10 traffic stops. That's not by any means excessive. 10 traffic stops in a highly trafficked area such as that is not very uncommon. And as I mentioned on our racial profiling report, out of those 10, the possibility of only half of those people being cited is addressed there.
Well, you know, I don't agree with the profiling. We spoke about this before. And again, it's not your issue, but the profiling, when the officer checks, you know, himself, did he profile or not? I don't think that that's fair to the public. But again, we have no say in
that question. That question is not asked in the citation. It is not asked, did you profile? The question states, did you know the ethnicity of the individual you stopped before you did? Now, if I'm driving on this side of the lane, and
that would still be profiling,
no,
correct?
It's not. And Mayor Neal drives by me and runs a red light. Well, I clearly saw that it's a white male who I happen to know as Mayor Eric Neal, so I turned around and stopped him. So did I know his ethnicity? And yes, I did.
So where do we get our profiling report from then?
Well, the profiling report is based off of our citations. Okay, so basically, state law has required us to report on the number of people that we stop, what we stop, and everything. So that's why on your citation you have all these questions. Okay, and that data is compiled at the end of the year, and it shows, you know, how many. It breaks it down by demographics as to who was stopped. It has nothing. It just goes to show. Now, if you had a discrepancy and we had 90% of African Americans were stopped by the police, and only 1% and 5% of the Caucasian, then you might have a racial profiling issue. You absolutely might. However, the numbers cannot be skewed because that's why we went to the electronic ticketing, because all of that is done remotely through the electronically through the electronic devices that we now currently have. Okay, as before, yes, there could have been some human error where people were handling manually, looking at the citation and addressing these issues. However, we've removed that doubt, and that's why when I came to you for the purchase of those electronic ticket writers, I told you that it would make our process more efficient, and it would also help solve any issues that may arise through the racial profiling report. So that's where the racial profiling report comes out. And basically, it's not, the racial profiling report is not it's not a report that says, look, this is how many people we've racially profiled. It's a report that states that there is, whether there is or whether there isn't any type of racial profiling going on.
I mean, you said a lot, thank you, but what can we do to better the relationship between our local Marshall Police Department and District 2 and District 5?
Well,
because
there's several members of District 2 that are here right now who will speak otherwise to your question.
Of course, I would expect that because
I mean, you know, we've gotten nothing but praise. The complaints, which, sir, you have actually seen the way we handle our complaints at firsthand, and even the complaint that you asked us to look into turned out to be a false complaint after we saw the video. So you're aware of how this process works. So, I mean, there's members of District 2 here who came to the meeting to show our support because they agree with all the things that we're doing. Now, as far as the chain of command, I'm not sure what you're saying about the breakdown of the chain of command, because the majority of my officers, the older, you know, we have the staff that's been here the longest, you know, 25 plus years all the way down to a few months. The majority of my staff members are former military, or reserves or whatever, or have been in law enforcement for such a long time that, trust me, sir, we understand the chain of command, okay? And my officers understand the chain of command because I have never had an issue with the chain of command with my officers. That issue has never been brought to me by any member of the community, or have I ever seen a violation of the chain of command by my officers. My officers, as you know, law enforcement is a paramilitary organization, so we follow the chain of command and adhere to it very specifically. Now, I'm not sure what your interpretation of the chain of command here in the city is. However, my chain of command starts with Miss Agner. I'm her direct supervisor. She's my direct supervisor. Okay, my officers I'm their direct supervisor. I oversee my command, my captains. The captains oversee the lieutenants oversee the sergeants oversee the patrol officers. And that chain of command is followed in that way. So I'm not quite sure where you're saying that there's a breakdown, because any issues that we've had, we follow that chain. Patrol officer has a problem, request a supervisor. Sergeant shows up, sergeant can't handle it, lieutenant shows up. Lieutenant can't handle it, the captain shows up. Captain can't handle it, I'm called out, and I come to the scene. So I'm not sure where the breakdown in the chain of command is.
Well, the breakdown is when there is, how would I say this? Confrontation, as a, not as a better word, but it takes a while to see a superior officer arrive on scene, a supervisor arrive on scene. I see where situations that could get out of hand and the supervisor could come in a lot earlier in the call and diffuse and de-escalate the whole situation.
Well, one of the things here in Marshall that we have the privilege of is that we have a lieutenant on every shift. So, and the fact that the way our structure is set up, that our sergeants and our lieutenants are actually part of the actual patrol count, which means that they're actually out working and answering calls just like a regular patrol officer. The minute something is starting to go astray, you will automatically hear that officer on the radio request a supervisor to the scene. Now, that person might not understand that as a supervisor is en route, because we're not saying Lieutenant so-and-so come to the scene. We're calling him by his identification number to come to the scene. Now, because of the way we're structured, that lieutenant or that sergeant may be handling a call because they're out there working, handling calls as well. So it may take him a few minutes to arrive on the scene once that officer is there, or you will have a senior officer arrive to the scene. So I'm not quite sure where you're saying this breakdown, because in the 20 months that I've been here, I've never had an issue with the chain of command, or has it ever been addressed to me?
Okay, I just mentioned it.
Well, other than your complaints.
Well, my biggest thing is it's not even a complaint. It's more of how can we get your officers to integrate more with the community, not just you holding, events and functions, no colors, no labels, but as far as your staff, your officers is not able to attend these events and communicate with the neighborhood. How can we get them to better serve the community?
Well, I'm not quite, I understand your question, I'm just not sure how to answer that, because our officers, like I stated, at No Colors, No Labels, our SWAT team was there. At our National Night Out, our SWAT team was there. Our traffic unit was there. Every on-duty and off-duty police officer was at National Night Out. At these events, like parades that we have, or during our Christmas functions, a lot of the officers are either working security at the scene, interacting with the community, doing stuff like that. When you say, how can we interact more? Well, you were part of you were there at the picnic that we had at West End Park. You were there. There's 200 kids, family members. Local business came out and helped us out. We made hot dogs for everybody. We interacted, we took pictures. You look at our Facebook, I don't know, I'm actually kind of at a loss for words, Commissioner Mitchell, because I really don't know what else you want us to do. Other than to totally have a blind eye to any type of criminal activity that's partaking in your precinct.
No, well, what I would want you to do is, number one, of course, I live on University in Sanford, and it's a shame when I'm sitting on my porch and I see 4 vehicles sitting in the exact same location, just pulling people over constantly, all night, from Friday to Monday. Now, I have, since I live right there, catty corner to it, I'm watching lights go in my windows to 1 o'clock in the morning, starting about at 10 o'clock in the evening. Now, if that's not over policing, I don't know how to describe it. Now, if it was one day, I can understand. But when I have 3 to almost 4 consecutive days of the same routine, it becomes redundant, it becomes boring, and to me, it's an issue that we need to look to address in a different way.
Right, you mentioned that, we have reduced crime, and I do want to take an issue with you. Since I've gotten up here, I've given nothing but praise to the community for them helping us with lowering the crime rate. I never said that our police department did it all on its own, because honestly, I couldn't do my job, and these gentlemen couldn't do their job without each and everybody here. And I can assure you, Commissioner, that there's people in this audience when I first got here who had a lot of issues with the police department. And I went and I spent a lot of time with them, talking to them one-on-one, asking them what their issues were, and I addressed their issues, okay? So, and my police officers are doing the exact same thing. There's officers, we hosted our Citizens Academy, which we opened up to the entire community. We had members of the community who were displeased with the police department, or at least the perception of the police department. When they walked out of there, they saw officers that they had issues with in a whole different light, because now they understood those officers were actually able to humanize what we do on a daily basis. And they walked out, and I cannot tell you how many phone calls I've had asking for another Citizens Academy. So, as I mentioned,
Chief, I'm going to cut you off right there.
Yes, sir.
We've got this report.
Yeah.
I think you've done a wonderful job. I'm not going to listen to our police department get berated any longer. So with that being said, no further discussion. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Can I take a motion?
I would just like, we go adjourn, but I would like for people to drive in front of my house on the weekends and see if this is kosher. Again, I do not disgrace our police force, okay? I stand behind Chief Campa and his staff. That's why I do attend the meetings, but as a representative, not my own opinions, okay, as a representative of my district, which we have a lot of seniors and we have a lot of younger people. And the younger people are the ones that are finding themselves, late night hours, maybe coming from the club, being put over constantly. It's not the seniors that should have issues because they're at home.
Right.
I don't see.
And I think Ms. Wilson would like to get up and talk. She was just motioning me and like to come forward.
Yeah. But after that, I'm done.
Let me just say this. I know you're about to adjourn, but Commissioner Mitchell mentioned Precinct 2. I live there. And he mentioned Precinct 5. I want to make something very clear to him and everybody. He's only speaking for one person, not for Precinct 2. I'm all over Marshall, and I've been all over Marshall for more than 80 years. And the fact that we've got this discussion is very disgusting. Now, I know Commissioner Mitchell. I helped to get him on that seat, but not in this manner. And I know where he lives. He lives on University. I live on Carter Street. I didn't see the police too, and I want to keep seeing them. And I have not seen them before. And I don't like it. It's disgusting, and it's embarrassing. Anytime we've done a good job, that's what we need to hear. We don't need to hear nothing negative. And if you look at television, and if you look at the other cities, the crime and all this going on, Marshall is in a good shape. Now, we're not going to have enough police to go out there every time somebody stops somebody. We have school board meetings and we have police meetings. We had a meeting in Ward Plaza. There was more of us than the people who live there. That's right. So now when you start talking about not having the police make a relationship, they can't go to every house and make a relationship. When they have these meetings and dinners, that's why we should go and ask the questions. I appreciate it has never happened before. And I've known commissioners and everybody here can agree. It hasn't happened before. And I appreciate you all know whatever kind of gifts you've been getting, I'll give you some more. But Precinct 2 wants your officers down here. You send 4 or 6. And what we need to know is where the police department is. If something happened on Carter Street or near Wiley College, if we wait for them to get from 59, it's going to be too long. Now, we have ETBU, Wiley College, and I know Miss Moon and they stopped me too. And that's fine. I don't mind them stopping. I'll pay whatever's necessary because I have seen our finished wires. And I've seen people just fly by, act like the light's not there. And the students have to step back. But when I start down University and see that car, I slow it down. I slow it down. And it's just a habit when you've been going certain places. When I go down Travis, when I go down 59, I appreciate it. I drive from here to Houston, and anybody who's been going that way, all you need to do is come to Carvin if you've been there. They start stopping. all the traffic starts stopping. And I appreciate the fact that when you come to Marshall, if you go down 59, everybody starts cruising to 40. They've been going 80 and 70, cruising to 40, and police sitting in the lane. There they are, police. Well, you don't have enough of them. But the ones you have that you move from place to place, I appreciate it. And Mr. Mitchell, I don't care how many, I don't know what you're looking from your window seeing. But I mean, we cannot stop all these young people. If they come from a party, they all go home. And whenever you stop somebody, I don't mind partying. I've taught these children. I've been to the parties. This is wrong. These policemen are not profiling. They're not picking people. They used to, and it wasn't profiling. When they call you to walk past, they just go. So we need to be appreciative of what we got. I look on television, the cold cases. Now I see Marshall, Texas, Harrison County. All that. We should appreciate it. And he's telling you how, if you want to complain, to go down there. As a precinct 2 citizen of Marshall for over 80 years, I appreciate it. And Mr. Mitchell, I want you to think about what you're saying. And I want you to think about what you're doing. Because what you're doing is not good for Marshall. We need to be encouraging these people to go home or get somewhere else and respect the police. I've got 2 children, and they were wild and young too. But I said, when you see that cop, you better stop, because I'm not going to pay no double fine. So we better do some training. It hurts my heart.
That's what I said.
It hurts me, and it does not make sense. And I hope the people who are hearing on TV or whatever know precinct 2, precinct 5, we respect it and we want it. And we appreciate it. Anything I can do to help at any time and get anybody else to help, I will. And Mr. Mitchell, we need to think about it.
All right. That being said, do I got a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, I got a motion from Commissioner Calhoun and a second from Commissioner
I just have one small thing to add. I haven't been in Marshall very long, and I live alone. When I heard someone outside my house, I called the police department. It was obvious that I was afraid and in distress. Not only did they check everything inside and outside the house, they told me that they would be checking it throughout the night. Your officers gave me their personal phone numbers and cards and said, if you have any problem whatsoever, call us right away. We'll be here. 2 weeks later, I saw one of those officers, and that officer approached me. I couldn't believe that they recognized me and said, have you had any more trouble around your house? If you hear anything, keep that card, keep that number, give us a call. And I appreciated that, and I still do.